Hello, my lovely friends. It's Emma here from Just a Girl Who Loves Elvis. And today I want to talk about something that has stayed with me for a long time. Because when I think about Lisa Marie, there is one word that comes up again and again in how people described her. Distant. Cold. Hard to read. And every time I hear that, my heart quietly says, no. That wasn't distance. That was strength. The kind of strength you grow when you've had to, survive too much too young. The kind of strength that doesn't announce itself. The kind of strength that doesn't need applause. Lisa Marie didn't perform her pain. She didn't dramatise her emotions. She didn't open herself up for entertainment. And somehow, that made people uncomfortable. So they called it distance. But what I see when I look at Lisa Marie is a woman who learned early that not every feeling needs an audience. Not every tear needs explaining. And not every part of you should be handed over to the world. That isn't coldness. That is wisdom. And today, I want to talk about that. The quiet kind of strength, the misunderstood kind, the kind that doesn't shout, but endures. So wherever you are, maybe curled up on the sofa, maybe listening in the car, maybe needing a moment of calm, let's slow down together. Because this episode isn't loud, it isn't dramatic, it isn't rushed, it's honest, and it's for Lisa. I think there's something the world struggles with. It struggles with quiet women. It struggles with people who don't explain themselves, who don't overshare, who don't make their emotions public property. And I think Lisa Marie was like that. She felt deeply, but privately. She loved fiercely, but quietly. She carried things inside, not because she was cold, but because she was careful. And I think people often confuse careful with closed. Lisa Marie wasn't closed. She was protecting something. And when you've been exposed to the world before you've had time to build yourself, protection becomes survival. She grew up with cameras, with strangers forming opinions, with people who felt entitled to her emotions. And that changes you. You learn that not everyone deserves access to your heart. And that doesn't make you distant. It makes you discerning. There's something we don't talk about enough when it comes to people who grow up in the public eye. We talk about fame. We talk about privilege. We talk about opportunity. But we rarely talk about what it does to a person's inner world. When you grow up being watched, you learn very quickly that people don't just look. They interpret. They don't just listen. They decide. They don't just notice. They judge. And over time, that changes how you move through the world. You stop giving everything away. You stop explaining yourself. You stop offering your vulnerability to strangers. Not because you're cold, but because you're tired. Lisa Marie grew up knowing that people would twist her words, misread her silences, and project their own stories onto her. So she learned to build quiet walls, not to shut people out, but to keep herself in. And I think that's something many of us can understand. Because when life teaches you that your softness will be misunderstood, you start protecting it. And protection can look like distance. But distance isn't always rejection. Sometimes it's self-preservation. One of the strongest things I think a person can do is stop trying to convince others who they are. And Lisa Marie reached that place early. She didn't spend her life trying to correct every misunderstanding. She didn't chase approval. She didn't rewrite herself to be easier to digest. And some people often took that as arrogance. But I don't see arrogance. I see exhaustion. I see someone who realised that no matter what she did, people would still talk. So she chose to live instead. Quietly, carefully, on her own terms. And that kind of strength doesn't look dramatic. It doesn't make headlines. It looks like stillness. It looks like restraint. It looks like choosing not to perform your life. I don't think Lisa Marie was emotionally distant. I think she felt too much. And when you feel deeply in a loud world, you either harden or you retreat. She didn't harden. She retreated. She held her feelings close. She loved privately. She grieved quietly. And that's not weakness. That's a tender kind of strength. A kind that says, this part of me is sacred. Not everything needs to be shared. And I think we forget how brave that is. Especially in a world that demands constant access. I think one of the most beautiful things about Lisa Marie was how she loved. Not loudly, not publicly, not performatively, but truly. She didn't need to prove her love to the world. She didn't need applause for it. She didn't need validation. Her love lived in private moments, in late night conversations, in quiet loyalty, in deep emotional bonds that weren't meant for public consumption. And I think that confused people. Because we live in a world that mistakes visibility for sincerity. But real love doesn't always want to be seen. Sometimes it just wants to be felt. Lisa Marie loved her children with a fierce protectiveness that came from knowing what it felt like to grow up being watched. She wanted them safe. She wanted them normal. She wanted them free. That's not distance. That's devotion. There's something I've noticed over the years. Quiet men are called mysterious. Quiet women are called cold. Men who keep themselves to themselves are seen as thoughtful. Women who do the same are seen as unapproachable. And Lisa Marie lived inside that double standard. She wasn't dramatic. She wasn't loud. She wasn't constantly explaining herself. So people filled in the gaps. And what they filled them with wasn't always kind. But quiet doesn't mean empty. Quiet is often full. Full of feeling, full of thought, full of reflection. Lisa Marie had an inner world that didn't need to be broadcast. And I think that made some people uncomfortable. Because we've become so used to consuming people. And she refused to be consumed. We often think of strength as loud, standing tall, speaking boldly, making noise. But I think there is another kind of strength. The kind that gets up quietly, the kind that keeps going without applause, that carries grief without spectacle, that protects its heart without hardening it. That was Lisa Marie's strength. She survived a childhood none of us could truly imagine. She lived under expectations she never asked for. She carried loss that reshaped her life. And still she loved. Still she created. Still she tried. That's not weakness. That's courage. There's a difference between distance and boundaries. Distance pushes people away. Boundaries protect what matters. Lisa Marie had boundaries. She knew what she could share and what she couldn't. She knew what was sacred and what was not for public consumption. And people didn't like that. Because we've been trained to believe that we're entitled to people. But we're not. We're invited, or we're not. And Lisa Marie chose carefully who she invited into her inner world. And that's not coldness. That's wisdom. Lisa Marie shows us something we don't see often enough. That you don't have to be loud to be strong. That you don't have to explain yourself to be valid. That you don't own your inner life to strangers. She teaches us that you can be gentle and powerful at the same time. That you can be sensitive and resilient. That you can be soft and still survive. And that, to me, is extraordinary. Thank you for sitting with me today, my lovely friends. Thank you for listening with gentleness. I hope this episode reminded you that not all strength looks the same. Some strengths whisper. Some strength protects. Some strength simply endures. And Lisa Marie did all three. So until next time, as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and keep a little Elvis magic in your heart.